Hi, Sarah. Really excited to have you here to talk to us about how to implement changes because innovation involves making changes, but people don't necessarily like to do that. So, how can leaders help their teams survive and even thrive in the face of change and innovation?
Oh, what a good question to start with. Let's get straight into it, Eva. Look, I think we as human beings, we do change. We all change, and we change all the time. But I think it's the idea of wanting to change or needing to change is the one that concerns us. So we don't like the idea of wanting to change, but we change all the time. And actually, leaders play a big part in helping their teams and their organizations progress through that. Look, I think you're absolutely right that innovation is the buzz at the moment. Like we've all, as humankind, we've always been innovating, but now we're under pressure to do some more. And like it or not, we are in this age of imagination and creativity, as I call it. So there's more changes and more innovation to come yet. However, there's one key point I want to just share with everyone that with every innovation, there is a shadow around the innovation, which is people actually have to change up to that new innovation. So it's not just good enough putting all our focus on creating the new way or new idea, but it's also about we need to focus on how do we actually get people come up to that new idea. So otherwise, countless good ideas don't fully get implemented because people don't change as readily as they could.
Great. Can you show us how then we can do it?
Yeah, sure. Look, what I'll do is I'll probably talk about the emotional change journey. So often there's way too much content around how do you make change management success in an organization. But I feel change is actually not about the product or the process. Change is definitely about the people. So I think unless we spend some time on understanding how people change and what kind of goes on in their mind, then change can be the change effort can be quite anemic. So do you mind if I share a screen with you? And I'm a visual person, so that's what you're going to get.
Please do. Please do.
So say if this is now and this is when the change finishes, most people when they're forced for a change, they'll follow a very set pattern of emotions.
Huh.
Say, for example, the morale is here at the moment, and you introduce a new change. Most people who don't actually have a say in it, who are forced to change, tend to go kind of like this.
Huh.
So this, this is actually marked by um, what we call a um, few phases. And the best way to describe that, the first phase is denial.
Mm-hmm.
And as time progresses down the bottom, the morale goes down, and then we enter what we call resistance phase.
Yeah.
Right. So initially we just go, no, that can't be happening, Eva. Don't be silly. That change is not going to happen. We're still carrying on the way we are. But
Hmm.
immediately when the realization sets in that, oh, no, it is going to happen, then we become frustrated and angry,
Hmm.
and we don't comply. So all of those things kind of start to happen. And then the third phase is actually not as smooth as it's shown in my diagram, but it's actually a lot more jagged, which is feels like we're over it, but we're not.
Yeah.
And then we go, no, 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 I'm actually over it now. Let's just get on with it, but we're not. So it goes up and down a little bit. Only finally, so this stage I describe it as depression.
Hmm.
Um, I cannot go back to my previous world, and this is the absolute pits of why we have to do this. Once that phase finishes, then we go into what we call acceptance. The morale is still low, and the fact is, I'm not happy, but have it your way, and tell me what to do now. So some people,
Hmm.
often you will find, they will exercise an exit out of out of that space and say, actually, no, that's I'm not going to be complying with that. I have different options and I need to exit. And that's okay. That's okay because not everyone will change at the same time.
Yeah.
But majority of the people will come through and go, all right, what is this new system that you're bringing in? What buttons do I press? And so forth. And finally, as the time keeps going, we tend to enter the final stage, which is commitment to it. Whether you move homes or cities, or you lose a job, or lose a partner, or so forth, we tend to see the same pattern of change happening. A few more details, if you want, I can share with the leaders that to watch out for the emotions that they actually
Please
see.
do. Please do.
So in the denial phase, what you expect to see is shock and fear. Because that's a very valid emotion in human beings. Oh no, that cannot be happening. I'm not ready for it. And suddenly, after that, the next phase, we tend to show or be very angry about it. So anger and frustration takes hold. And we spend a bit of time there, but again, it's we're not done yet because that gives way to I guess resentment, and then some dismay, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
And sadness. And this is where we're kind of losing all control over what we need to do. So this is the time where we kind of just we resisted it, we got angry, but now we're feeling, oh no, I can't really make this change, and the bottom of it is that feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
And so depression isn't, I guess, in the most clinical terms, but it's a total sense of helplessness to say, I cannot maintain what I used to have because now I'm forced to do it. And once people pass through that, like it or not, there's something amazing that actually happens. So as the morale is still quite low, right? But at this stage, when they get over it, and feel that they're actually forced to do this, this is the first time they ask for information. So, Eva, for example, if you are bringing in a new IT change or bringing in a new process change or or a job role change, whatever that might be. So you as my leader have been trying to convince me to see the benefits of this change, but my brain wasn't listening.
Yeah.
But in fact, this is the first time I am actually ready. So my brain is change ready at this point where I'm saying, all right, have it your way. What buttons do I press? What do I turn on? What do I turn off? What's the change in the process here? And as soon as I do that, I enter into what I call trialing out different things. So we become more curious. We start to experiment with it and go, actually, yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. And that's when we start to integrate this new innovation into our lifestyle. And finally, Lord forbid, we celebrate. That's the amazing part, which is making sure that every time we innovate, we're going to leave a shadow. We're going to cast a shadow, and people will have to lose their old way of doing things or the old way of being and adopt to the new innovation. And as leaders, we need to put a little bit more effort and actually be respectful of this human change journey that happens. I am sure a lot of people watching this video will kind of relate to, yeah, I did that when I was made redundant, or I did that when this happened, or when whatever that might be, because it's such a natural, valid emotion to have.
100%. In fact, it all makes sense. And I recognize all of the emotions that you mentioned, except I didn't know it at the time. So, what is one piece of advice you can leave our viewers, especially leaders? How can they actually shorten the denial to resistance to depression curve? How can we make that as short as possible so that people can accept and commit to the change?
Sure. Look, what I might it's a one piece of advice, but there's two or three elements to it, right?
Thank you.
So it becomes really clear if I just draw a line through the middle of that. We tend to see the world like this on the left,
Mm-hmm.
and the world like this on the right. But
Mm.
what leaders can't afford to do, is do a bit of a yo-yo on this left side, because that's, I think, a big problem in our Australian culture, where we're too nice rather than being too kind. So, first key point here is that I think we have to have the courage to get people to depression as quickly as possible.
Wow.
Because on the left side, it's just pure indulgence at
Yeah.
times. And we lack the courage and emotional intelligence to be with people in their suffering of that point.
Hmm.
And I think the other key point here is in that depression. So we've adopted this from Kubler-Ross, who does a lot of research, or did a lot of research in grief cycle. So just like we help people overcome their grief, one thing leaders have to understand is when we get them to depression, that's the time we need to afford to give them some dignity of time and space. We can't be snapping our fingers and go, come on with it.
Wow.
So don't hold, if you are bringing in the change, I say don't hold or hoard the change message. Put it out there as quickly as possible, but then
Mm.
give people the time down here in depression to be able to overcome that. And once they
Mm.
get to the right side, it's much easier. So I think, first of all, just sharing this with your team and with your people is quite liberating, to say
Yeah.
I'm not stuck in denial or just stuck in resistance
Yeah.
or depression. It is a journey. I will follow through. So my advice to everyone is be courageous, because the the faster, quicker, and more efficiently and effectively you can cycle through this change curve, the better chance you'll actually have for the innovation to hold and for people to utilize the full strength of that innovation.
Sarah, that was mind blowing. I'm speechless because I recognize all the signs, but I didn't know how to deal with them at the time. So thank you for such a honest and insightful look into how teams can actually go through changes and the innovation cycle together. We really appreciate your advice and insights. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. It was lovely to talk to you, Eva. And I just want people out there to just keep innovating, because that's the norm now. And but at the same time, be respectful of how people and the people that they're affecting will need to change. It's not a given thing, but it's absolutely something a fine, experienced leader needs to know this, and it's a skill to bring people along this journey.